I see you.
Hello, my name is Julie Powers, and this is Happy Cells and Souls, and thank you for being here. I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company, and my missions in life are to inspire healthy living around the world and to help people understand that life is better when you're dancing through it. But my expanded mission is to create healthier bodies at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. We only get one body while we're here, and we have to take care of it, but we're also supposed to be here and spread light and love throughout the world. And so that's what these videos are about. I love talking with people who bring more joy, love, and light into the world in whatever way that happens to be. And I believe that we can learn something from every single person, no matter what their political, sociological, cultural, religious background might be. If we don't even agree with them, we can still learn from them. And so we have to have open minds and open hearts. And today, we have huge open hearts because we're going to be talking with Tracy Carroll, Dr. Tracy Carroll, PhD, and we're talking about something that sounds like it could be so heavy and so hard to discuss because there's a lot of darkness around it. But we're going to bring it back into the light because there is so much that we can talk about that brings more light into something that is surrounded by domestic and sexual assault. And Tracy, you are the assistant director for the Southeast Missouri Family Violence Council, and you work directly with a shelter in Bonne Terre, Missouri, and working with women and children. And you were telling me that you really got your start with this because you have not only your master's, but your doctorate in criminology, and you were working with death row inmates. And you found this common thread that so many of these inmates had domestic and sexual assault in their backgrounds as children or teenagers, whatever, right? And so
Right,
you were
absolutely.
like, okay, tell us about that and how you ended up working with the SEMO Family Violence Council.
Well, I had a job with a law firm, and they worked primarily with death row inmates. And what I found, I did lots of background history on there because we were looking for different ways for their case and stuff that maybe they needed a lesser charge based on their past. So I would have to go back from birth on up. And so what I found through that was that 90% of death row inmates had either a domestic or sexual assault in their childhood. So this was a progression of their life that they ended up with, making bad choices and stuff. So I have been talking to a friend about how sad I was that we need to work on domestic and sexual assault when children are younger and stuff, so that we can help them make better choices, because undiagnosed sexual assault, undiagnosed domestic violence, um, you don't know how to handle it. You go to drugs, you go to crime, you do things like that. You don't know why you're doing it, but you're doing it because of your past. So
Right.
she said, you need to you need to go and work for the shelter. And I'm like, we have a shelter? So I got with someone who was on the board. They accepted me on there, and I was on the board for probably 6 or 7 years. And then the board had a change of management, and they offered me the executor uh, position. And I did not want to do that because after I'd been on the board, I saw the paperwork and stuff like that you do as the executive director. And that wasn't what I was about. I was really about people. And she said, well, how about if we make you the assistant director and you can be the case manager and still do the things that you love? And so I did that, and I've been here 5 years. And because I really wanted to do something impactful in my life, that not that death row wasn't impactful, because it opened my eyes to something I didn't know. But I want, it's not about money at the end of my life. It's really about the impact I've made on people's lives. Did I change anything? Did I make this a better planet for my grandchildren?
Right.
And so I have seen all the seeds, and the seed is this domestic and sexual assault. And we need to figure that out, because once they get here to my shelter, we're fixing things that have been a lifetime of pain.
Right. I know that before I hit the record button, we were talking about the book that Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Perry,
Yeah,
put out last year. I believe it was called "What Happened to You," and it's
right.
all about changing the vocabulary so that we're
Right.
not blaming people saying, what's wrong with them? Why are they,
Right.
why are they like that? We're saying, what
Right.
happened to you? And that's kind of where you're coming from, is
Right.
these
Absolutely.
people are having such extreme situations in their lives, and they don't even know, usually as children, and they're not emotionally developed enough to even come
Right.
to terms with it. And so you're right, it goes into all of these really hard areas that they don't know
Right.
how to deal with, and they start making really poor decisions in terms
Right.
of acting out with other people.
Well,
And
and they're
so
masking a pain. They don't know why
yeah,
that pain is there, and they're shoving it down and they're putting it in the back, and drugs and alcohol and pills and crime and getting with people that make them feel accepted and clean. We don't realize that as children that what is not the norm. That is not what your life is supposed to be like. So
right,
and if we get it out there, people find this so uncomfortable to talk about. If we make the verbiage out there, then what happens is it's not uncomfortable. We've been teaching a class at all the schools about sexual assault. And we start in the 6th grade and work up to 12th grade. It's a new state law in Missouri. And it's to try to get kids more comfortable with saying words that we have made. Oh, don't say those words,
right.
and so now we're trying to make children understand, and by the time they get to be seniors, they will have had this class a little bit more depth every year. And by the time they get to college, they won't be sexually assaulted, because I don't know if you know this, but there's an epidemic in the universities right now with sexual assault. And it's because we've not given people words. It's become a very silence. And that's how perpetrators keep us victims, is by
Right,
silence. And
right.
that's why I love this podcast you're doing, because we're going to talk about things that empower us, because education is knowledge, you know.
Well, I really didn't know about this new class that's being offered in the schools, which is great, because some of these children, well, I wish it was much lower down in the grades, because
Mhm,
a lot
mhm.
of these kids, that are really tiny children, they're getting abused and assaulted, and they have no idea that it's wrong.
Well, and let me
It
tell
is,
you this,
oh,
one in 3 children will either be sexually assaulted, know someone who's sexually assaulted, or will see a sexual assault. In 1990, it was 1 in 15. In 1979, it was 1 in 100, and here we are at 1 in 3
wow.
in 2021.
So what are we doing wrong? We are doing something very, very wrong. And I hope that if someone is watching this that is in a situation that they know that something's happening inside your home or your family, even if it's in a different home, that you're able to take the steps necessary
Right,
to bring it out of the darkness, so that
right.
there is light that can shine through you and
That's
into
right. And that's what
people.
I think that's what's happening, is we're talking about it. We've got to get people talking about, okay, let's talk about it. It's not a comfortable subject. It's not
Right,
something we want to discuss. But if we talk about it, it's no more secret, and the light filters in. And we have to be the light. We have to make people feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable. When
right.
the initiative bullying came out, nobody wanted to talk about bullying. And that's another study that we did as a domestic violence shelter, is we found that most bullies are living in a domestic and sexual assault family. So
Mm.
see all the different programs we keep popping up, when the seed is domestic and sexual assault. So it all keeps going back to that.
Well, and if somebody has very low self-esteem, low self-confidence,
Mhm,
they're in a comfort zone. It's not comfortable in
mhm,
any real, term. It's
right,
just their comfort zone, because that's where they've been for so long. They don't
right,
know that their life has value enough to step out of that, and they don't know how to get out of it, even if they wanted to. And so
right.
that's why places like the shelter and SEMO Family Violence Council and shelters across the United States
Mhm,
are
mhm,
there to help people. And sometimes it's not even like physical abuse. Sometimes it is mental, emotional, psychological, financial, control,
mhm.
narcissistic,
Yeah. And
manipulative
that's the problem.
behavior.
Everybody just thinks it's hitting, and it's
Mhm.
not. It's verbal abuse. And that is, sometimes I hear from the women, that is 10 times harder for them to put their mind around, because if they at least hit them, it's over the next day. But the verbal continues and continues. And so we try to let them know that, or they'll say, he used to be good, or he's a good father. We hear that
Mhm.
so much. And I'm like, he can't be a good father if he's hitting their mother. He can't be a good father if he's talking to their mother bad. So
Right,
they're like, I never looked at it like that. It's talking about empowering these women,
right,
because some of them came from domestic violence and sexual assault. So they feel like this is the way they saw their dad treat their mom, or their mom treat their dad. So this is normal to them. So we are seeing 5 generations in this shelter. So it's a cycle. We see mothers, grandmothers, great grandmas have been in this shelter, and we've got to stop that cycle by empowering them. We have a huge outreach program, women who have lived here and succeeded, which is 47 strong. And these women are going to college. They've gotten jobs. We've had 8 or 10 of them buy their own homes, get their own
that's great.
cars. It's empowerment. It's showing them, hey, I don't have to be treated like this. My
Right,
worth is
right.
more than this.
Well, and two, I think that, we are entering a new phase where mental health issues are not as hush hush as they used to
Right?
be.
Amen.
So, we're trying to bring that out into the light and saying, if you suffer from a mental illness, don't be ashamed by that.
That's
If you
right.
are the victim of sexual or domestic assault, don't be ashamed by that.
Mhm.
Just say, I am this person and I need help.
That's
I
right.
need to make
Right.
a change. And that's where people like you and all of those fabulous people at the shelter
Mhm.
and all the
Yes.
volunteers and the board members, they rally. They rally. So when somebody comes to you, it could be anytime, 24 hours a day, you guys are there at the shelter, just like
Mhm.
most shelters across the country. So if you're watching this and you're in Chicago or Los Angeles, or you're in Timbuktu, Florida, or wherever, there's probably a shelter really nearby, that
Right.
you can check out. But so we're talking specifically about the one that's in Bonne Terre, Missouri.
Mhm.
And somebody shows up there and it's a woman with 3 kids and a little dog. What happens?
Well, we bring them in, and we go through whatever they're, talk about what they're doing, make sure they're fleeing domestic or sexual assault. And then we get them a room, and we get them bedding and clothes. And at first, when they first come in, they come in and we let them get a shower, just kind of, take it all in, because it's a shock to come to a community living.
Mhm,
They have their own rooms. In this case, what you're talking about, they'd get their own room, because there's 3 of them or 4 of them and a dog. So they'd get a
mhm.
whole room. We have enough for 32 women. But right now we have 32 women and 16 children. So, I mean, we put them in as much, we got playing packs everywhere. And
Right.
we have 3 sets of twins from
Oh my goodness.
4 months to 3 years old. Excuse me.
Wow. That's a lot of people to be taken care of, and to have the resources available to provide them with what they need.
Right.
So when they get their room, where does the funding come from? Do you rely mainly on grants and state assistance, federal assistance, or just by generosity of private
Oh,
donation?
all the above. We write grants from the federal government. VOCA is a Victims of Crime Act law. And like
Mhm,
when criminals, on Wall Street, or you pay a fine in the federal level, it goes into this gigantic pot. And then we write grants so that we can, and our grant from VOCA only pays the workers. We
mhm,
get state money that is, we write grants for, and that helps us with other things like health insurance for our employees, things like that. The money
mhm.
that comes in from donors, that's what pays our electric bill, our water bill. If somebody needs glasses, if somebody needs, stuff like that. But that's why we're always fundraising, is because it never ends.
Right.
You have a huge outreach program, and those women continue to get help from us. They just don't live here anymore, and a lot of them come back and volunteer. So that even it's like a double whammy for us. We help them, and then they come back and try to help other women. So,
Well,
um,
if the numbers keep going up at the rate they're going, you're going to
right,
need a lot more assistance for
right,
sure. And like you said, we're starting with the seeds, not just with the seeds of the abuse itself, but with the seeds of the education. And
right.
so we have to plant all of the needs now so that they can
Right,
grow into some kind of additional resources.
right, right.
So when people want to donate, they can donate money, of course, but I know
Absolutely.
that, personally, I've dropped off all kinds of things from clothing
Diapers,
to
trash bag,
shampoo and
yeah.
diapers and furniture, because that's something that years ago I didn't realize, that you had places that you could store things for people that are moving out into their
Right,
own housing, that
right.
they need furniture to start their
Right.
home.
Well, and we have a like a Buckeye building behind my sister's place, and we call it the little Walmart. And
Uh-huh.
people donate all their furniture, their housewares and stuff, and we put it over there. So when they get ready to move out into their own house or apartment, we take them down there, and they're welcome to take whatever they need for their house,
Right.
because they usually come to us with a Walmart bag. That's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
They don't have a U-Haul truck or anything. Most of them have the clothes on their back and what they could carry. And if they got kids, it's even worse. So
Right.
we're very proud of that building, because it really does fill a need. And these women are so grateful. It doesn't matter if things match. It doesn't matter if the couch has a burn hole on it. They are so thankful that they could have a couch or anything. And they'll have mismatched dishes, mismatched forks and silverware. They're just thankful that they can start that off in their first house, because a lot of these women have never lived on their own,
Right.
and they make it their own. So anytime you're cleaning out old Aunt Bessie's house from something, remember the shelter, because household needs is a big need for us. And
Okay, good.
twin beds, full beds, things like, they don't usually ask for a gigantic bed, but twin beds and full beds is a big thing. Bunk beds, washers, dryers, things like that. You use stuff that works. The only thing we ask that you don't bring us is box TVs.
Okay.
The old, the
Nobody
old,
wants those.
we
Nobody
had,
wants those
yeah,
anymore.
we had like 18 of those in the back of the shed. We finally just had to throw them away. Nobody would take them. They were heavy. So when people call and say, I've got stuff, I say, we take everything but box TVs. So,
Uh, well, that's really good to know, because there are a lot of times that people, they have garage sales and things like that, but then they're like, now what do I do with the stuff that didn't sell? Or
right,
they don't want to have a garage sale because it's a pain in the neck.
right,
And if they
absolutely.
could just box it up and take it over, that's great.
Right,
So they can just contact you, and you said that people can contact you on your Facebook page, which is
right.
the Southeast Missouri Family Violence Council,
Yes.
on your website, which is SEMO, F as in family, V as in violence, C as in council, so semofvc.net. Or
Yes.
they can call you at 573-358-3913, which I
Yep,
will put
that's,
all of that information in the text below this
oh,
video.
good, good, good.
And I'm just wondering if there are any specific, is there a specific story or a specific need that you would like to just make sure that people know about? We have about 3 minutes left.
Okay, well, if I was going to say, we have had so much success with this shelter. It has just really turned the corner. We've gotten a lot more education. We've gotten a lot more representatives behind us to support it, because they're seeing. We've done a lot of data for them, so they see the economical impact it has. If we fix some of this, it's going to fix everything. So I just want people to know that if we can dispel a lot of the negative image, all the Hollywood stuff. I mean, I love TV and all that, but if we can dispel some of that, only 25% who are sexually assaulted are strangers. 75% of people who are sexually assaulted is a close, personal, intimate family friend, a coach, a mom, a dad. It doesn't have to be stranger danger all the time. If we
Right.
can dispel some of those things, that, hey, let's talk about it. Let's have an open dialogue. It may not be comfortable, but it might save someone's life, a child's life, because this is not starting when we're adults. This is starting
Right.
on our children. And if we can ever get into kindergarten with maybe a curriculum that will help kindergartens know about healthy relationships, because they don't talk about any of that, because
Right.
it's uncomfortable for people to talk about healthy relationships. If we take about all the religious and the politic kind of stuff out of it and just make it about health our well-being, our good cells, our good body, and make it feel like, hey, don't do these things to me. This is not right. We can change the world. And that's what
Right.
it's all about, is changing the world, and I feel like that's what's happening here. I mean, it's a small change, but it's a change. And if you look
Hey,
at,
every change, you got to throw the rock into the ocean and make a
that's
puddle,
right,
right? And make the
that's
wave
right,
start somewhere.
that's
So
right,
no, I think that's great. And when you say you're changing, you are actually changing somebody's life and saving somebody's life. It's not just that a child might be harmed like fatally. You're not saving their life that way, but
no,
you could be, but you're saving their life because of what's going to happen to them from that point forward, and all the changes and things that are going to go through their mind, through their heart, through their soul, to make them make
right,
good decisions or bad decisions from that point. And so you could literally be saving somebody's life by just listening and
that's
helping
right,
them understand that you can say no. And when you can't, because there are a lot of times you can't, and you're being overpowered in many different
that's
ways,
right.
that you have to be able to go and tell someone and not be blamed for telling someone.
That's right. Because it's uncomfortable, especially the when I gave you that specific 75%.
Mm,
Do you know how hard it is for a child to say, Grandpa touched me, or the
right,
neighbor, or the coach? Because usually they're charismatic, they're narcissists, they're very good at what they do. It's very difficult to open that dialogue, especially if your mom and dad are just love these people.
mm,
How can you tell them? And I have met so many people along the path that if they could have told somebody, it would have changed maybe them
absolutely.
getting into drugs. Maybe they wouldn't have gotten in with this bad boyfriend or something like that. We just have to take it one step at a time and make sure that a square in our universe is where we change. Because
Right.
it's just like I always tell, we service 5 counties. This is the only shelter in 5 counties.
Which
I said,
county? Which counties, Tracy?
St. Francis, St. John, Madison, Ironton, and Washington. And
Okay.
that we're the only shelter in those 5 counties. But I said in the newsletter, I said, if everybody will send me $1, I will not have to worry about bills for the next 4 or 5 years. $1.
Oh,
So if everybody looks at it as $1, if we can change the world, but we always look at things in such a big way. We
right.
look at things as we can't do nothing, but your shampoo, I'm telling you, these women love to wash their hair with conditioner and everything. Your bottles of shampoo changes their life. They'll say,
Yeah.
who brought this? And I'll say, it's just people who care about you. And they're like, why do they care about me? And I have to explain,
Because we have to care about each other, and
that's
that's
right.
what you're doing. And I wish we had more time to
I
talk,
know it.
but I try to keep these conversations
I
to about
know.
20 minutes. And I just want to thank you, and I want to thank Stephanie.
Yes.
So Stephanie is the director, Stephanie Bennett,
Yes.
and
Uh-huh.
all of your volunteers, all of your
Yes.
board members. And I want to just, if somebody who has ever used the shelter is watching this, I want to thank you for seeking out the help that you need. And I hope that you are able to affect the next generation as well to make better decisions.
That's right.
To say, help me. Let's
Right.
let's get this fixed. And
Right.
thank you for spreading so
Thank
much
you.
love and
Thank
light and
you.
joy in the world, Tracy. We appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for having this podcast, because, or this, whatever it's called. I don't know. I'm
Whatever it's
kind of
called.
whatever it's called. Thank you, because this is how we get the word out. Let people know that, hey, we're here, you're here. Reach out to somebody. If you can't talk, put the hand up with the thumb in it. And this means help. It's universal help. So if
Okay.
you're somewhere out in public and you're being abused and you need help, just put your fist out like that. That's the universal sign for I'm being hurt. So
That's great to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. I
thanks for
forgot to
having me,
mention
Julie.
that. Thank
Thank you.
you.
I appreciate you.